Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are watching for the very first time, hello, my name is Staecha. I go by Namaste on Instagram. If you're interested in keeping up with what's happening in my day-to-day life, you can consider following me over there on Instagram, and you can go ahead and show me some love over there as well while you're there. So as you can see by the title of the video, I'm going to be talking about some things that some stereotypical perception that people may have of Japan and living in Japan, what life might be like living in Japan. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you some things that I think are myths when it comes on to living in Japan. So I do want to say that there is a difference between visiting Japan and living in Japan. For some persons, the things that I'm going to list may not be, how do I say it? It may not be truthful for them based on their own situation, whether they're living here or they're visiting here. Two different things, guys. And I'm going to explain further on how this might affect your perception of Japan when it comes on to these things that I think are myths when it comes on to Japan itself. So the very first one is people have this perception that Japan is such a technologically savvy, futuristic country, and we're all over here, cyborging school and some magical fantastical unicorn technological advancement contraption or something of the sort. When I speak to persons who don't live here, who have never been here, Japan has this huge hype outside of Asia when it comes on to technology, and it's funny to me, and I'm sure funny to persons who actually live here when people are acting like this, because I'm like, okay, what technology are you talking about? Japan is so backward in so many ways. There are in my head two sides of Japan. I feel like there's the side that is packaged for the rest of the world to see, and then there's the actual Japan that everyday persons living here experience. There are two different things. When I speak to people about Japan, like, Japan is a country where people feel like it's cool to ask you for a CD. People still have the little MP3 players as if that's something that's hip. People are in Japan, people need a bank book. So when people think about Japan, they think or they imagine this technologically advanced country that is so futuristic. Now, mind you, there are robots here, even though I've never seen a robot. But there is a particular hotel that has robots that are employees that helps with the checking in and the cleaning process and all of that. Me personally, been here 1 year, been to 5 prefectures, never seen a robot. Never seen a robot. So this idea that people have that Japan is just so, oh my God, technologically advanced. No. They still use paper for a lot of things. Faxing is still a big thing here. And with the recent COVID-19, it just amplified how inaccessible something like internet is here. Now, when I travel to countries like America and even some parts of Jamaica, especially in the city places, like, Wi-Fi is a no-brainer. You're going to a supercenter, a mall, I should say, there's going to be Wi-Fi, and there's going to be a myriad of different Wi-Fis. Like, Wi-Fi here is not that accessible. Like, internet connection is not that accessible. And when it comes on to like mobile devices and stuff like that, you see a lot of flip phones here. And when I came here, I was like, why are there so many flip phones here? Like the old flip phones. I'm like, what? Why do you have a flip phone in 2020? Make it make sense. And people just have this, I don't know where people, well, I guess it's the media. But Japan, while Japan is known for technology and being on the cutting edge, the everyday person does not have that experience. So let's get that straight.
I said what I said.
The second thing I wanted to talk about is the issue of crime. Now, persons have it in their heads that Japan is crime-free. No, let us be very, very, very clear and specific. Japan has one of the lowest crime rates in the entire world. And if I'm not mistaken, they are part of the top 10 countries with the lowest percentage in crime and violence, right? So, and I've spoken about it before, Japan is a very safe country. And as a black woman, even as a black woman, I feel safe about walking the streets certain hours of the night and not worry about my safety. So that is true. Japan doesn't have a lot of crime, but that doesn't mean that it's crime free, and I'll explain why. Like, things happen here, right? A lot of things happen. Domestic violence is a big thing here, but no one really talks about these things. One of the other big issues that no one really talks about is the fact that a lot of sexual harassment happens here, especially on the train. No one talks about that, right? So I've spoken about it in a previous video when I spoke to my friend while I was in Tochigi, you know, that being on the train, especially during the peak hours, rush hour, when everyone is traveling, it's a breeding ground for pedophiles to go on the trains and to sexually harass women, grope on women. And a lot of women don't report these things, and it's not just on the train. A lot of women don't report these things because of the ridicule that they'll feel or face if they report it. And it's just a culture where persons try to maintain peace and harmony, and in doing so, they will pretend like certain issues don't need to be addressed, and so they don't address it. So Japan, like I said, while it is a country where you're going to feel safe because a lot of things don't happen, that does not in turn equates to nothing at all happening, because things happen here. Crimes are committed here. You know, people kill people, men harass women, and amongst other things. But at the same time, you have to understand that it's crimeless. There is less crime happening here, but it isn't crime free. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. The third thing I want to talk about is the food. I don't know. Japan, when it comes down to food, I've had Indian food, I've had Korean food, I've had Japanese food. Like, people talk about Japanese food, but to be honest, living here, there's such a wide variety of other food. And when you compare the Italian restaurants, the American restaurants, the Indian, the Korean, the Chinese, all of those restaurants, when you compare their food to Japanese food, in my mind, a lot of them or all of them outrank Japanese food. Like, for me, Japanese food is so bland and boring. It requires black pepper, salt, a whole lot of seasoning, and I'm not sure if because my taste buds are acclimatized to a whole lot of flavor and all of that. Like, the food is overrated, and when you think about it to a large extent, a lot of the restaurants here aren't even Japanese restaurants. There is Japanese food here, obviously, but a lot of Japanese people dine out at Chinese restaurants and Korean restaurants. So I don't know, like, people I don't know if it's a huge myth, but I think it is a myth because I did do my research for this video, and there are other articles that corroborates or agrees with my theory that Japanese food it's not all that. Like, I would sell my little toe right now for some plantain, some festival, some jerk chicken, some roast breadfruit, again salt fish. Oh my god, that I need that in my life right now. So the fourth thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that persons rate Japanese customer service very highly, and to be honest, it's deserving of its high rating to a large extent. However, understand that because it's top notch doesn't mean that you won't run into certain difficulties. No, I've been in a situation where I'm at the supermarket and I want to communicate something with the cashier, and she literally closed off the line in order to facilitate me, to take the time to facilitate me. So there is that. They do have a very pleasant culture here, and that translates into good customer service. And they go the extra mile sometimes for you. If they're packing something and you ask for where an item is in the store, they stop what they're doing and they take you to the item immediately, right? And you never get the impression like you're bothering them or anything like that, even though you probably are, but you never get the impression. And coming from Jamaica, where people have an attitude because you're asking them to do their job, that is like a drastic difference. But here's the thing now. In Japan, if you go to, for example, to a restaurant or a fast food restaurant specifically, for example, and you want some sort of customization to your meal choice, just know that customization is not going to take place for you, right? I feel like, and I'm not trying to offend anybody who is Japanese, I feel like to a large extent, Japanese are extremely rigid. And if you give them a set of rules, A, B, and C, and D, just understand that anything that falls outside that realm will not be done. If they say it's chicken, 2 fries, and ketchup, you're getting chicken, 2 fries, and 2 ketchup. Okay? And if you go there and say, can I get an extra pickle or this and that? No pickle, no this, but I want this extra that. That's not going to take place. They're going to look at you crazy. So while customer service is good on the surface, when you dig deeper into customer service, when it comes down to like ordering out and getting things customized to suit your product, to suit your need, I should say. Why am I saying product? To suit your need, then you're going to run into a whole lot of problems. And understand, like I said, that if you want anything outside of that, it's not going to happen. I've personally seen a woman try to return something at H&M, and she stood there pleading, appealing to their emotions for a good 15 to 20 minutes, and they were like, sumimasen, no, you're not going to get what you want because the policy says X, Y, and Z. So we're not going to make any exemption for you. And I don't think to a large extent that they follow the rule of thumb that we have in the West, where the customer is always right. No, the policy is always right. And you better fall in line because you're not going to get your way. That's not how it works here. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to touch on is Japan is not expensive. So I've read a few articles that try to demystify or debunk the theory that Japan is not expensive. And this is where I say living here and visiting here are two different things. Now, if you're going to visit Japan, like I've said in previous videos, like when it comes down to the eating out culture, the food is not expensive. So that is true. But when it comes down to living here, it's a whole different thing, right? For example, I'm currently in the process of trying to find an apartment, and that in and of itself is hell. And I'm being very generous when I say that, because in order to move in Japan into a new apartment, the requirements are a pound of flesh and an organ. Literally. Like, that's what they're basically asking for anyways. So I checked an apartment that I liked, for example, and they want 4 months rent. And I'm just like, why do you need 4 months worth of rent in order for me to move in this small ass apartment, right? You have to pay security deposit. This is when you're moving in, by the way. Most companies will say that if you're moving in, you're going to need security deposit, key money, sanitization and exit fee, plus two or 3 months worth of rent. And if an apartment, for example, the monthly rent is 60,000 yen, which is like $600, please know that if in order to move into that apartment, you're going to need at least $2,500 in order to move in to that apartment. At least. So this is what I say to people, like, if you're coming here to visit for a month or so, it's not going to be expensive to you. If you're coming here and you're going to live here in Japan, you're going to have to deal with all the expenses that comes with living in a country. And Japan has some really over the top expenses when it comes on to living here, especially as a foreigner. Every year your taxes go up despite the fact that your pay remains the same. How is that cheap? I really want to know, for those who keep saying that Japan is cheap. Like, how is that cheap when you're earning $1, but your taxes are going up by increments every year, and your salary is still the same? Please explain to me. I know I'm not a connoisseur at math, so I need someone to explain to me in the comment section below. How is it that that's considered to be cheap? Because that does not seem very fair to me. Okay guys, so if you've made it to this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. If I left out anything that you think is a myth about living in Japan or just Japan in general, leave them in the comment bar below. I'll definitely want to hear from you guys to know what you're thinking. If you disagree with anything that I say, go ahead and leave that in the comment bar below as well. I want to hear what you're thinking, and we can have a discussion about, you know, what you might agree or disagree with, or add something that you think is not there that should be there. Looking forward to hear from you. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel and share this video with a friend. Please don't forget to like the video as well. It helps YouTube to know that persons are engaging with my content, and it also helps them to promote my content to other persons who may not know about me. Please like, comment, share this video, and I will see you next time in the next video. Bye.